16th of the City of Sonoma Planning Commission. At this point, I'll convene and call to order this meeting. If I get a roll call, please.
Commissioner Willers.
Here.
Commissioner Barnett.
Present.
Commissioner Dambach.
Here.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Here.
And Chair Wirick.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to point out that Commissioner O'Gorman-Jenkins and Vice Chair Nugent are absent from tonight's meeting.
Great, thank you, Hannah. Okay, if at this point I could have a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Willers.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't there.
Commissioner Barnett.
Aye.
Oh, and
Wait, this is for the agenda, right?
yeah, the agenda for tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, tonight's
You're
agenda.
not here?
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Dambach.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Yes.
And Commissioner Barnett, I got you correct. Yes. And Chair Wirick.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
All right, at this point, we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. And if Mr. Mackey, you could lead us in the pledge this evening, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Expertly done. Okay, at this time, members of the public in attendance may comment on any item not appearing on tonight's agenda. It's recommended that members of the public keep their comments to 3 minutes or less, although I've known to be flexible. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to make comments at the time the item comes up for commission consideration. Upon being acknowledged by the chair, please step to the podium, speak into the microphone, and begin by stating and spelling your name. Any members of the public that wish to come forward? Good evening, how are you?
Good evening, commissioners and city staff.
There we go.
Good evening,
Thank
is that
you.
better? Commissioners and city staff. My name is Robin Makaruk, M-A-K-A-R-U-K. I live at 314 Bowden Way in a homeowners association known as Willows Wild. I'm here this evening to express concerns of my immediate and surrounding neighbors about Tidewater Capital LLC, the purchaser of former Matson properties comprising 7 branches, formerly ramekins, built by Suzanne Brangham, a rammed earth construction in the early 1980s. The General's Daughter, the farm area with the canard barn, Lot 15, which is vacant, of Willows Wild Homeowners Association. A preliminary plan was presented to Willows Wild homeowners and immediate neighbors last month, proposing demolishing ramekins, relocating the General's Daughter to front Spain Street, demolishing the barn, and building 52 townhouses on the 4 parcels, including Lot 15 of Willows Wild Homeowners Association. Although this plan is just a first pass, probably to see what sticks, this kind of urban infill does not make sense here in the city of Sonoma, a worldwide tourist destination. While there are many more issues to be considered regarding these parcels, I ask the Planning Commission to seriously take into consideration the historical nature of our city and the impact of adding a greater traffic load onto an already crowded Spain Street, impact on utilities, demolition of some of Sonoma's unique structures like the former ramekins, and relocation of the historic General's Daughter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. Are there any other members of the public this evening who wish to address the commission on any matters not appearing on tonight's agenda? All right, thank you. All right, at this, sir. If you could, yeah, just state your name and step up to the
Jim
microphone.
Okumoto,
Thank you.
Okumoto. When we first bought our property here in Willows Wild, it was really pristine, serene, with the dead-end street on 4th. But with the situation that's going to be coming up, I mean, how much of a crazy impact is that going to create? And especially like the 2017 fires. My wife has a horse, and what normally takes her to go to the Mets Cuneo Sebastiani property off of BARNETT, it would take her 8 minutes. But when we had the fire, it took her, or took me rather, I was driving almost 3 hours just to get to that point. So with another addition of all these homes, I mean, isn't that crazy? I mean, it's ridiculous how much they're going to do. And then what are they going to do? Put another stop light right on West Spain and 5th? And of course, the people going down on 4th, if that gets opened, it's going to be just a nightmare. I just can't believe we could actually, and then of course, you know, I mean, I have people sometimes, because I'm right there on 4th, I get these, I guess they must be tourists, come down and they'll ask where the general's daughter house is. And I would say, hey, you just passed it up. It's that white building right there on the corner. So, I mean, these are tourists coming in. So, you know what? It's a little, I think, premature to actually have it get moved. And of course, if that's not a historic building, from what I understand, because it wasn't registered, does that mean that if the guy decides to move it and it kind of gets damaged, will they just tear the whole thing apart? Because now it's damaged and they're gonna, I mean, that's probably what I'm thinking they would do, which is just ludicrous. You know, I mean, that'd be a great historic, a significant thing in our Sonoma that will get lost, all because of the greed of some developer. You know what, I can keep going on, but I guess I better. My neighbors know I can keep talking forever, so I'll just cut it at that. But anyway, I would love to have everybody here keep that in mind, because it's really, it's impactful for everybody, especially for us in Willows Wild. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments tonight. Are there any other members of the public in attendance who wish to address the commission on items not appearing on tonight's agenda? Okay. Seeing none, I will close tonight's public comment portion, and we'll move on to the consent calendar. And at this point, I'll ask the commission if there are any edits or changes to be made to the minutes from the meeting of June 16th, 2026. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar tonight?
So moved.
I'm abstaining, I wasn't there.
As will I.
Okay.
Second.
So you don't have a quorum, but if you read the minutes, you can vote on the minutes.
Even though I have no idea if they're accurate.
That's why we do basic minutes,
Okay.
and not the verbatim kind. But that's up to you guys if you feel comfortable or if you want to continue to abstain, just for future reference as well. If you are absent from a meeting and you do read them and you don't have any questions, you are welcome to vote.
Okay, with that update from the director, is there any?
Change my,
Okay.
to approve.
Okay. So we have a quorum at that point. All right, wonderful. Can we get a roll call, please, Hannah?
Commissioner Willers,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett,
Aye.
Commissioner Dambach,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
and Chair Wirick.
All right,
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
great, thank you very much. Okay, at this point, we'll close the consent calendar portion of tonight's agenda and move on to the public hearing. First item is item 4.1. It is discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve a modification to the conditions of approval of the Bijan development to allow the sale of the affordable unit to a moderate income household located at 1203 Broadway, originally 1211 Broadway. Staff report, please.
All right. Jennifer Gates, Community Development Director, here tonight to present this item. So as previously stated, this is a request for a modification for a condition of approval on a project. So the project itself is 1211 Broadway, and it was approved to be subdivided, and so that's why that new address is 1203, which is the parcel in the very front, which is the historic structure. So it has a brand new APN. It is still considered in the mixed use zoning district. It is on our overlay in the Broadway corridor. So it is a 113-year-old home, and it's about 583 square feet, a single-family residence with a shared driveway with the parcels to the rear as well as the parcel to the south. So again, in 2019, the project was approved using the inclusionary ordinance, and at that time, the rules were that the inclusionary units stated that a development containing 5 or more residential units shall provide at least 20% of the total parcels for units affordable to households in low and moderate income categories. The ordinance at that time did not state when low or moderate income category would apply. The condition number 54 required that the developer enter an affordable housing agreement and establish maximum rents. It did not state whether it was going to be low or moderate at that time. The agreement that was created for the property was a rental for a low income household. I was not able to find anything that said when a low or moderate would apply to a property. I found another project that did moderate and it was rental. So I don't know at that time if they were discussed, but it's not in the information that I looked at the staff report, I looked at the information, again, in the conditions of approval, and nothing was evident to me about the why. So if this was to move forward today and we are going to modify that specific condition of approval, this project is complete. The units in the back are starting to be rented out, and the applicant owner has an interest to sell that front lot. The request is to allow it to be sold as a moderate income household. And so staff's recommendation, if approved, is that we would modify that one condition and specifically state, instead of establishing maximum rent, we would say allow the sale of the unit to a moderate income household. So it's very specific. And then the only other change, I did take out a lot of the minutia part that really is specific to when we rent property. And then obviously we don't have a planning director, so I just took that word out. But that would be my recommendation for that text change. And with that, staff's recommendation would be to adopt a resolution approving the modification to allow that sale as a moderate income. Staff is available to answer any questions that you have. I will try my best. And the applicant is online. They are not from wherever they are located. So if you have questions for them as well, they can talk through Zoom.
Thank you for your report, Director Gates. At this point, I'll ask any members of the commission if they've had any ex parte communication with any interested parties in this matter. Okay. Are there questions of Director Gates by the commission? Commissioner Barnett.
I have a few. I remember when this project came before us. Was the indication for this unit to be made available to a low-income, for low-income use housing. Was that explicitly stated at that meeting as the desired outcome?
I did not see anything. I'll be honest, I did not watch the meeting. So I don't know. All I know is that the conditions of approval were not modified to reflect that. I saw some additional modifications in the conditions of approval, but not that aspect.
Okay, and that being the case, if in fact there's a absence of specificity as to the conditions of approval, which I think is what you're saying, why is this even before us at all?
Because it specifically says to rent. And so they want to sell.
Oh, they want to sell it instead of rent it. So the real modification is the opportunity to sell it.
Mhm.
And then the issue of to whom it is sold in the affordable categories only applies because it's changing from a rental to a sale.
Correct.
Okay, my other question is, this is a complex of, I can't remember how many other units there are behind the house, that 4 or 5. And so is this a condominium?
This is actually its own parcel.
Meaning each unit is conveyed as its own unit on its own parcel?
So there are 2 duplexes,
Yes,
and then there are 2 single units.
yes.
So that's 4 and then 6. The
And are
private
they
sector.
intended to be rentals?
They right now are being rented, but they could be sold. But the requirement in the conditions of approval is that those duplexes have to stay together, so they cannot be in the future split into condos.
Okay, and therefore conveyed separately in a sale. They have to be sold as a single unit.
As a pair.
As a pair.
So one could be owned and the other could be rented.
Okay. And the house in front is not, well, since the whole complex is not a condo, the house in front isn't confined by any HOA or CC&R rules pertaining to its relationship to the other units.
There are, and there is an HOA because for the subdivision itself, and there are CC&Rs for this project as a whole, but none of that explicitly states anything in regards to it being an affordable unit. In the map itself, it just identifies that that parcel is to be the affordable unit, but again, not at a specific level or any qualifier that it's supposed to be for sale or for rent.
And that front unit is part of that HOA?
Yes, it is.
And is the front unit entirely independent structurally from the balance of the structure?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Dambach, please.
Thank you. I sent my questions into you already. So my questions are around the deed. And in the language you have, it's a minimum of 55 years. The applicant's narrative said that they would happily have it be permanent. And so my question is around requesting a condition for approval that the deed be permanent into perpetuity as a moderate parcel for sale. So that's one thing I'd like to ask and explore. And along that way, when the deed is written, does the city have first right of refusal for that sale, or first right to find another buyer?
Typically, yes, we're going to build in that first right of refusal into the agreement that gets signed, and it allows us to then say, find an interested buyer, nonprofit, to represent us if we aren't interested ourselves, or give them notice that we are not going to be purchasing it. As far as whether the applicant is willing to accept that condition for it to be in perpetuity, I would have them answer that question. I just want to make sure, because we're going to switch this off to show his face. Are there any other questions for me specifically before we have him?
A couple. Do anybody else have questions? Okay. Mine dovetails in with Commissioner Dambach's in that I'm curious from a mechanical standpoint of our entitlements. if that 55 years is from the date that it was initially entitled, or if it restarts. I mean, I know we're just talking about 7 years, but
55 plus 97. Again, it's usually based on, I was gonna double check, and I haven't had time to
Sorry.
see what we've traditionally done, but typically a certificate of occupancy
so
from that period on, so it wouldn't have been 2019. It's not its approval
it'd
date.
be much more recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then if you could remind me how our inclusionary ordinance of 2019 differs, if at all, from that which is enforced today.
Oh, very different. So then it was just literally that text that I read you. Now today we have multiple categories, whether it's rental or if it's for sale, and then how those get applied to
Right.
each unit. We also require it to be in perpetuity. We also state more aspects of where it needs to be on the property, how it should relate to the rest of the property, and those levels of detail that we didn't have originally. The original ordinance was short.
Okay, so fair to say that the ordinance that was enforced at the time afforded much more discretion to
It did.
developers and the commission than what's enforced now.
And or staff.
Okay, thank you. We can, one follow-up question from Commissioner Barnett.
Having this fall into the mod category still allows it to be counted in our arena number calculations, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think in the interest of the applicant's time, we can move over to their comments.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Thank
Thank
you
you so
for
much
being
for your
here.
time.
So, Sharon, did you hear the question from Commissioner DAMBACH?
I did, absolutely. So, yeah, I have no problem. Absolutely, the unit is permanently affordable to the end of the recorded agreement, and I'm fully committed to that remaining permanently affordable as for a sale home. I'm not asking the city to give up that affordability. I'm just asking to change the form of it from rental to ownership.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, that you are okay if the deed reads into perpetuity for a moderate?
100%.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Sir, did you have a presentation or any prepared comments tonight, or were you simply present to answer any questions that the commission might have?
Yeah, mostly just to answer questions. The only thing I would state is that the conditions of the project approval from December 2019 never specified the affordability level, and neither did the staff report. So the low income designation only appeared on the recorded agreement itself, and beyond that, the low income for sale units are generally more difficult to make work because that tier. The maximum price is around $227,000, and a household at low income limits in Sonoma County often can't qualify for that at that mortgage once you account for like the down payment, closing costs, and lending standards. So the moderate income is the standard tier for BMR ownership, precisely because it's the level where ownership is actually achievable. So it produces a home that sells to real qualified family rather than just sitting in limbo. And on top of that, I did also provide $80,000 that went into affordable housing fund for this specific unit as well at the time of the agreement. So I'm hoping to obviously set this at that level to get somebody that can utilize this situation as a moderate level.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Barnett.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I remember when this project came before us. It was a very unique project. And
I barely remember. It was a long time ago.
well, as you get older, these things get imprinted in your mind.
Yes.
But my basic question is, are you happy with the way it's all turned out?
I'm really grateful that it's over. It was quite a challenge, and it took almost 8 years in total. I mean, it was we went through the ringer, but we stuck with it, and I'm really happy with the outcome and the way it turned out. And it's a really special project, and I am grateful that we went through it and we didn't give up on it. But it was, I mean, to be quite honest, it was very, very challenging.
Well, I understand that. How's the relationship with the neighbor that you're now sharing access to the property with? They seemed enthusiastic about the idea of flipping the orientation of the project so that the egress could be shared. They still on board?
So now they are. I think obviously, again, we went through some challenges during the time because it just took so long, and having to deal with construction right next to you is not the easiest thing. But now that it's done, I think they're happy with it, and obviously they have access now, so it's giving them more freedom and accessibility to their property as well.
Okay, it's just, to me, it's worthwhile sometimes to evaluate the what I'll refer to as the completion or the after effects of the project. So often, the Planning Commission gets involved at the very beginning of the approval process, and we never have a closure on how everybody feels about what ended up getting built and and whether it works. And so my questions are basically to try to get a sense of closure on this project, because it really was an interesting project that came with challenges, but you as an applicant and the architect were flexible, and the neighbor was flexible, and in its own way, our neighbor's here, in its own way it was, I hope we'll hear what the neighbor has to say, I hope it was something that has left everyone feeling positive. So, thank you.
I hope at the end, they're happy with it. Like I said, there were some challenges in the process because the process took so long, but I tried to communicate with them throughout the process, and Bruce was really amazing and helpful. And I haven't talked to him since the project is finished, but I haven't heard from him, so I'm hoping he's okay with it.
All right, thank you. Any other questions of the applicant from the commission? Okay. Yeah.
I'm the neighbor, and I would like to talk and find some. You wanted some closure.
Yes, sir. I will absolutely open up public
disappointed
hang on just a minute. Just procedurally,
Okay.
we're gonna have to close this section, and then I'll open up public comment at that.
Okay, yeah, you haven't had a open comment yet.
You absolutely get time to talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Thank you.
I'd like to understand the motivation behind this change. It feels a little bait and switch to me, and I'd like to understand what the nature is, because once it's sold, it's no longer a rental property. So can you tell me what the motivation was and why you decided to make this change?
Sure. So 2 reasons. The first, I'm actually relocating overseas this fall to Madrid, and it's going to be very hard, obviously, as a rental. And I don't believe like a single deed restricted rental managed long distance is going to be suitable. And then having it owner occupied will be a far better long-term steward for the home. And secondly, converting the for sale turns this from an affordable rental into a permanent affordable home ownership opportunity. So it lets the moderate income family or whoever owns it have a home in Sonoma and build equity, which is exactly what the city's BMR ownership program is essentially designed to do.
Okay, but the remaining units will all still stay in the rental pool, and you have a property manager for those?
Correct, yes. All those are for rental.
Okay, I have.
And we do have a property
some
manager for those,
rents on.
correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other commission questions of the applicant? Okay. And with that, we will open public comment. So any member of the public present wishing to address the commission on this matter can come forward. State your name, please, sir.
Hello, my name is Bruce Faust,
Bruce.
F-A-U-S-S. I am the property manager of 1221 Broadway. I have 3 things I'm kind of concerned with that were passed by you guys. There's no place for the garbage to go in that front little place. If they use it as a rental, as a shared rental, I think in the very far back is a place for their garbage, but then they would be trespassing, I think, on the other residents or the other addresses. Yeah, I do share the driveway. Currently, apparently, when my tenants aren't looking, the tenants over there throw their garbage in my garbage, and they're not happy with that. Not happy with the project, the pavement that you approved, the plastic pavers that go down for a gravel driveway. I had a gravel driveway there for 100 years, and it was fine. But now I have a gravel driveway with some plastic round things coming up through it. I just looked at it today, took some pictures, and not happy with that. And not happy with the lighting that you folks approved. It's the neighbors on Marcy Court, I'm surprised they're not here. My tenants have a zero light blinds for their bedroom, and the light goes through their blinds. It's a gloss white paint, and then they have a bright LED light in the middle of the night, and tenants don't like it. The people on Marcy Court don't like it. So those are the three things that I have concern with that you folks approved.
Great, thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments. Okay, any additional questions of staff or the applicant from the commission? Okay, let me see if I do. Director Gates, the conditions as written would require owner occupation. Am I correct? If
That's
this were
correct.
to be approved as written. Okay, thank you. Okay. Any commissioner comments? Okay. Is there a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the use permit for the establishment, well, I'm on the wrong one. Approve the modification of the conditions for approval of the Bijan to allow sale of an affordable unit to a moderate household located on 1203 Broadway with added conditions of approval that it's deeded as moderate into perpetuity.
Second.
Can we address that garbage issue? Is that, you said it still remains part of the HOA, so will their garbage still be behind the other units?
Yes, and I can work with Rom, with the property manager. So in the very back of the property was the identified location for all the trash bins when not pulled to the curb.
Okay.
So we can work on that, and we can go and see how that driveway is holding up
Okay.
now that there's a lot more usage.
And is it possible to make sure that the lighting is within code?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you. With those amendments, then I'm good too.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Willers,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett,
Aye.
Commissioner Dombach,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
and Chair Wirick.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Item 4.1 is closed. Moving on to item 4.2, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve a use permit for the establishment of a formula business within the Historic and Plaza Retail Overlay Districts at 452 First Street East. Is there a staff report? Jacob.
Absolutely. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening,
Jacob
sir.
Dunn, Associate Planner. So we will be discussing a use permit for the establishment of a new formula business that is located in the Historic and Plaza Retail Overlay Districts. This project is located at 452 First Street East, Suite A, in the complex that's known as the Mercado. The general plan land use and zoning for this property is commercial, and the site area for the suite itself is 2,000 square feet. So this project proposes the establishment of a new formula business for the company called Overland Sheepskin Co., or Overland Sheepskin Company. The business is in addition to 22 other stores that they have located nationally. There will be no expansion of the actual building or the footprint or any exterior alterations to the building. The interior improvements will include new fixtures for the merchandise, some lighting updates, and then new ADA accessibility improvements. And this kind of is a floor plan showing a little bit of that upgrade for the merchandise and seating and things like that. Here's the front facade of the tenant space for Overland. And in accordance with the use permit, findings, the proposed project is going to be preserving the historic building and promoting ground floor retail and will generate pedestrian traffic. The use is consistent with the zoning district and it complies with the development standards given that there's no expansion of the building. And the proposed use is also compatible with the previous uses and the neighboring uses that are in the vicinity. The project involves only minor changes to the interior and isn't expected to impact the surrounding character of the plaza. So a couple other things is that the formula businesses require 3 additional findings to be made. And in accordance with those, the business project narrative has provided information about creating some diversity of commercial offerings that will complement the surrounding businesses and will add a mix of commercial uses that are located on the plaza. The project has been designed to remain compatible with the architectural character by not imposing stylistic changes that will impede on the current character. And the proposal is compatible with the existing uses surrounding it that will also provide additional opportunities for pedestrians and promote economic vitality of the plaza as a whole. So staff recommends Planning Commission approval of this use permit and for the establishment of the formula business at 452 First Street East, Suite A, including the approval of the categorical exemption. The applicant is available to provide any further information about the application or just answer questions, whatever the commission would prefer. And staff is available to answer questions as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Associate Planner Dunn, for your excellent presentation. With that, I will ask for the commission's disclosure of any ex parte communications with the applicant or any interested parties in this matter. Seeing none. Well, Commissioner Willers.
I had very early communications with the applicant in a professional manner. They reached out to me from an architectural point of view.
Okay.
So not as a commissioner.
Excellent. Thank you. Before I invite the applicant to come forward, are there any commissioners who have questions of staff? Commissioner,
I would like
Shida.
a definition of formula. What is our definition in our code?
We'll pull it up now. If you want to ask any other questions in the meantime, that maybe.
thank you for that. Good suggestion. Commissioner Barnett, you wanna ask your question.
In the material you presented, Jacob, I didn't see anything that indicates signage or identity treatment of the business on the front of the building. Do we have any information about that?
Yeah, so I indicated that it will be done with an administrative use permit, or administrative permit, sign permit. There is a sign package that was provided, I believe it was in the project narrative, that indicates the change of signage to replace exactly like for like with the previous business, so which will only require administrative sign.
And what business has been in that location up till now?
Previously,
It's an art gallery.
it was an art gallery, that's correct.
Okay, and I guess that, part of the consideration of the formula store ordinance was preventing formula store corporate signage. And because that definitely is not in keeping with the historic character of the plaza. And so is it possible to pull up in the project narrative any indication of what the signage is? Because my only concern would be that there's, for lack of a better description, a sort of generic corporate look that gets imposed on the frontage of this building. And before I feel comfortable approving this change of use, I'd like to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I can show the project narrative just to pull up the
Yeah.
sign.
Okay,
information.
thank you.
So to answer the question about formula businesses, and what the definition of that is. So the way it's defined is that it's includes types of businesses. This includes auto parts sales, building material stores, furniture, and other general retail stores. But specifically for a store that has is substantially identical to 10 or more other businesses in the United States, regardless of ownership or location at the time of application.
Okay, so 10 is the number.
10 is the
Okay.
number, and then this business itself would qualify as a formula business small, which isn't super applicable to the code, but it's for a formula business that occupies less than 10,000 square feet.
Okay,
These
all right,
bus-
thank you. That's
yeah.
what I needed.
Okay.
Another question?
I had it, but it was fleeting. I think at this point, if are there any other questions from the commission? Okay. I would like to invite the applicant to come forward, introduce himself, and make any comments that he wishes.
Good evening, my name's Cody Phipps.
Welcome, Cody. Thank you for coming.
PHIPPS. Happy to be here, answer any questions you have.
Commissioner DAMBACH.
Yeah, thank you for coming. For one moment, Larry, do you want to look at this for?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so here's the signed package that has been provided.
Can you scroll down a little bit and
Yes.
enlarge that image, or not?
Yep.
There you go. Thank you, that's perfect.
Well,
I
Commissioner
assume the
Barnett.
past door will go away and that won't be there anymore.
Yeah, that would be removed.
Well, Commissioner Barnett is consuming the.
I've
media
consumed
in
it.
front
Thank
of
you.
him. I have a question.
I actually have a question.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I
sure.
was waiting. I'm curious of your thought process in deciding to come to the town of Sonoma with this.
So we look at a lot of things, and if you look at our profile, tourism is a big part of it, and Sonoma's tourism's second to almost none. So when we looked at our owner's wishes, he has a wish list of cities that he loves, and Sonoma's one of them. Came here with his family. He's come here often, and so when this opportunity came up, we jumped right on it. We didn't think we were going to get this far, being as it's such a competitive market here, especially on the plaza. But we worked with the right realtor who got us in front of an owner who loves our product, and that's what set us here today.
Thank you.
Commissioner O'Neill.
You have a store in Napa on First Street,
We do.
and that's so close. I mean, I can drive to both of yours really fast. Is there going to be any issue with cannibalism?
No, I don't think so. We don't see Napa and Sonoma as the same. I was in Napa today.
Oh, don't you know how to
Neither-
speak to this commission?
Neither do I.
They're not the same. I spent a lot of time on the plaza today, a lot. And the atmosphere of this plaza compared to Napa is not even in the same ballpark. The customers that come here likely aren't going to Napa, and likewise. And so we want to hit this demographic here of the customers that come to Sonoma.
Sent the right man for the job. Commissioner Barnett.
I'm not familiar with your store.
You will be.
I understand. From what I gather, you sell sheepskin products.
So we are a luxury sheepskin and leather apparel company.
Okay. So coats, gloves, slippers.
Yeah,
And
all of
hats.
that. We have shirts, we have hats, we have belts, we have wallets, we have handbags, we have boots, we have shoes.
So you're an apparel company,
it's
really
apparel.
not just sheepskin.
Correct.
I see, okay. And you do realize it rarely drops below 32 degrees here.
That's okay with us.
So,
We find that our customers, tourism especially, come from all over the world. And so when they come to Sonoma from different parts of the world, different parts of the country, they visit our store, they fall in love with something, and we ship it to their house.
okay, well, and I appreciate that fact. One of the other truths about Sonoma is that the loyalty of the locals forms an important base level of business income. In other words, I lived here 36 years. I can't tell you how many stores have come and gone because they did not get the loyalty of the locals because it was too far afield from their area of interest or consumption.
our product's world-class. It's second to none. And customers that live in Sonoma, locals, they don't spend their whole time here. They may go to Colorado, they may go to, Alaska, and they're gonna come to our store and shop our product when they wanna go somewhere cold.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you. Any other questions of the applicant? Cody, if you might just indulge me for a moment and just describe your company, how many locations you have, and maybe
So it's
where other retail locations are located.
Sure. So our company, I've been there almost 5 years. It's the best decision I ever made to work for this company. It's family owned. The owner of the company and his wife still run it every day. He runs across the floor. He rings a bell when we hit a sales goal. It's that kind of company. Great company to work for. The 22 locations we have are all tourist destinations, heavily concentrated in Colorado. That's kind of been our sweet spot. We started in Taos, New Mexico in 1973. It was the owner's brother actually hand sewing sheepskin coats in Taos, New Mexico. The mother and father, he started to take off. He needed help. The mother and father came to help him. And then the brother and sister also came on as they started getting more and more business. They were making catalogs back when catalogs was a thing in the 80s. Mailing catalogs. The running joke was they were putting pictures of coats in the catalog that they hadn't made yet, and they just knew they could make it. So taking phone orders, this is well before the internet, taking phone orders. And then in the 80s, they moved to a small town called Fairfield, Iowa. That's where we are today. We have this beautiful Amish built building. It's a town of 10,000 people. Beautiful Amish built building that's our headquarters. We're warehoused out of there, so we have a warehouse that ships e-com product across the world. And that's kind of where we are. We will always be in Fairfield. We'll never leave. That's where our headquarters will stay forever. We love the town. We love the small town. We recently, in the past couple of years, have opened a couple of other stores. So we've hit markets like Saratoga Springs, New York, Lake Placid, New York. We just opened last year in Traverse City, Michigan. So tourism is really what drives us. We love that ever-changing customer base, the new people, but we also support the local communities. So our team here, if we establish a home base here, our team will be engaged locally. So they'll engage with the commerce, they will engage with the local businesses around. They are locals themselves. So even though the business is in Iowa and that's the headquarters, the team here is local, and they'll be here, and they'll be supporting the local business.
Great, thank you. Just two quick follow-up questions. How many locations do you have, and what are some of your other wish list cities?
We have 22 today. Wish list cities, Vail, Colorado is one of them. And if I'm honest, it opens tomorrow. We landed that one after a decade of trying to get into Vail. We have finally made it. Some of the other cities we have on our list that we're looking to is Greenwich, Connecticut. We're looking at, what's the other one? There's a list of about 25 cities, and they're all over, all cold weather. This one's unique. It is unique in a sense, but we've proven that with other California stores. We have a store in Truckee. We have a store in obviously Napa, but this market fits different for us.
How's the Napa store doing?
It's doing very well, very well. We expect this one to do better. The numbers say that this one should do better.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any other questions of the applicant before we allow him to step down? Okay.
No, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. At this point, we will open public comment. If any members of the public in attendance tonight wish to address the commission on this item, now would be the time. Seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for commissioner comments. Commissioner DAMBACH.
Thank you. Well, I know your product, and I really appreciate that it's still family run. And I went through and I researched the history of your product, and for this town, given our small population of 10,000 people, our economic base is important, and we do want to support small businesses, and the mixture of having a family-run business that's maybe medium-sized but has the economic sustainability of your business model, I think, if you do become a component of this community, which we would love, I think that it would be a great addition.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner O'Neill?
I might admit to owning a few pieces. And sheepskin can be worn in Sonoma in the winter, believe me. And I'm excited. I think that this is going to be a really cool opportunity. Yeah, it's for tourists, but I go on the one in Napa all the time, and I'm not a tourist, so I think it will get some local attention as well.
Anybody else?
Nice to meet you, Cody, face to face. And for Commissioner Barnett, if you were to have researched the other locations of this company, while the branding is similar, the method for each building and the way that they apply that branding is individual to the community. That was one of the elements that was appealing during the process of discussing their future store.
Okay, I will just say that, Cody, I've appreciated what you've had to say tonight, and it's evident that you stand behind your employer and our mission, and we look forward to your engagement in the community, and wish you luck, and that's all I have to say.
What's the expected opening date?
Can I answer again?
Can we shop for Christmas?
So if everything goes through, we do have a lease. It is a lease, not a purchase, so we will be leasing the space, and we have take possession effectively on September 1st, and then my job is to help transition that into one of our beautiful stores, which takes about 6 to 8 weeks. So we're looking mid-November, we could be open.
Excellent.
Definitely before Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. With those comments, I would ask for a motion. Do we have a motion?
All right, I'll go again. Motion to approve use permit for the establishment of a formula business within the historic and Plaza retail overlay districts at 452 First Street East, Suite A.
Second.
All right, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Willers,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett,
Aye.
Commissioner Dambach,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
Chair Wirick.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Great, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Can't wait. And you guys are a lot more intimidating on the videos I've watched. I watched a lot of
Which meeting did you watch?
a lot of them.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you having done your research. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of tonight's calendar, but it's not incumbent upon you to do so.
Who is the most intimidating at the meetings? You don't have to answer.
If I'm honest, I was most nervous about you, Mr. Bowman.
All right.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Appreciate it.
Your reputation precedes you. All right. With that, we will close item 4.2 of tonight's public hearing and move on to item 4.3, discussion, consideration, and possible adoption of a resolution recommending City Council adopt 2 ordinances, amending the Sonoma Municipal Code to allow for the payment of in lieu fees for trees and public art. If I could get a staff report, please.
All right. Last item of the night. As part of our recent comprehensive fee study update, the city had requested information on potential in lieu fees. An in lieu fee is what provides the developer or the applicant the option to mitigate the impact themselves by doing something on site or pay the city an in lieu fee for that impact. The city of Sonoma, based on its municipal code, has the authority to charge in lieu fees for parking, trees, and public art for public projects. At the June 3rd council meeting, the impact fees and the in lieu fees were adopted for parking, trees, and public art, which triggered our need to amend the municipal code. So just kick it off, we're gonna start with trees. So currently, we have a section of the code in Title 12 that addresses for construction projects or development projects. It'll specify that we have a replacement ratio and how that gets measured. Currently in that municipal code, it specifically states $100. We adopted an in lieu fee of $700. So our proposed modification is going to allow the application of an in lieu fee for all tree replacements, not just within a development project, because we're finding that when somebody is asking for a tree removal permit based on like sidewalk issues, or maybe it's too close to their home and it's impacting their foundation, there's not always a good place to plant that tree on their site. And so this would provide them that opportunity. They already know what that fee would be, that would pay the $700. And that cost was determined by what the cost would be to install a new tree. The actual replacement ratio was also only located in the development section. So now we've pulled that whole section out, put it within the general overall trees chapter, so that it would again apply to all tree removals. And then we completely removed any reference to an exact dollar amount, so that we don't have to change the ordinance every time we change the number. So those are the summary of the changes that we made to the trees. All right, next one is art. So we currently in Title 19 have a section in regards to, it's called the Public Art Fund. We are requiring that all public projects with a total valuation of $250,000 dedicate 1% to public art with no cap. Only portions of the cost paid from the general fund would apply. So if the city had public funds that, or had a public project that was federally funded, any of that money wouldn't count towards that contribution determination for public art. It also identified other means for the city council to fund the art fund. We recently in that June meeting adopted in lieu for the 1% of the project valuation to also include commercial and or multifamily development of 5 units or more. Again, projects valued over $250,000 with no cap. So very similar to the public projects, but then in this case it would apply to commercial projects as well as the larger multifamily developments. The value of that art can be spent on the art installed on site. It just needs to be visible from the public right-of-way. It would not give a means by which the public would have access to private property. So with that adoption, we needed to make the code allow for it. So when staff reviewed this section, I understood why, in a sense, it was in our Title 19. I call it ours because that's technically our development code or zoning code. But it was related to public projects really only. It didn't really talk about development as a whole. And it also identified other funding aspects which seemed out of place in Title 19. So staff is recommending that we repeal the entire Chapter 19.51 and replace it with a new one, where it's very specific to requiring public art for the new construction, remodeling, repair of commercial and or multifamily buildings. Again, $250,000 project valuation, and it would be 1% of that value. Or they pay the fee. In that review of that ordinance, I also looked at other ordinances, and the city of Napa had a good list of proposed exemptions from that. When it was first discussed with city council, when it was adopted, when we brought it forward, it was mostly about nonprofits that may own it or build something. They don't typically have a lot of extra funds to pay for something like that. Also, 100% affordable units. We want to not disincentivize the production of affordable units. But in looking at that other list from Napa, we also don't want to disincentivize people from repairing their buildings. A good example of that, there was a fee that was going to be imposed on the burn building for the Napa Auto Parts after that fire. That was the delay in being able to repair that building quickly, was these additional costs that were about to be applied to that repair work by the city. And so wanted to provide some other exemptions in which we weren't imposing an additional impact. These are all for consideration tonight. City Council has not looked at any of these except for the nonprofit and the affordable unit. So your recommendation would be what would be presented to City Council for any exemptions. Again, what was presented originally was a 100% affordable project, but there could be an application where you apply it to any affordable units. So let's say 10% of the project square footage was for affordable, that could be deducted from that total project valuation, and so you're basically deducting any kind of affordable units from the total. And maybe that would incentivize more affordable. I don't know. So that is also part of that consideration before you tonight. The other is the art in lieu fee section that we originally had, moving it over to a new chapter called the Public Art Fund, and it will be in Title III, which is actually specific to revenue and finance. This felt more appropriate to me, but for you guys, that's up to you. We can keep it in Title 19, we can keep them separate, or we can join them together. I did see examples of where it was together, but in a different section, like in the building and construction titles. That's an option. We don't have a very general title. So in a municipal code, we have titles, then chapters, and sections. So we don't have a title that is more in general or encompassing a lot of different contexts. So these were the two sections that I had alternatively are going to suggest. So Title 14 is our construction title, so we could combine it and put it there, or keep it as we proposed it to you tonight, which is two separate titles. Title 19 focused on having to provide art with development, and then and then Title 3 with just in relation to the art fund and how that fund is actually funded. So for amendments to Title 19, the Planning Commission does need to make findings. So the proposed amendment would be consistent with both Policy 5.9 to promote public art, and specifically Policy 5.9.1, which establishes a public art ordinance. And that is within our community development element of our general plan. And it's also consistent with other goals and policies and actions that have been adopted for public art within the city. The proposed amendments further the promotion of public art, which is a public interest and contributes to our public welfare. The ordinance does comply with CEQA, and it is internally consistent with other applicable provisions of this development code and components of the municipal code. The other component of this will be a policy document that David Jans is working with the Fine Arts Commission to develop, and that would be for the actual implementation. So the Cultural Fine Arts Commission is a commission that will be responsible for the actual art, where it's placed, as well as if that in lieu fee is paid, how those funds would be allocated for public art in the future. So that policy is being developed and will be presented to the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission before being presented to City Council. So the recommendation is to adopt two different ordinances. There is a resolution, one resolution, two ordinance exhibits, and that both of these ordinances are exempt from CEQA. So that concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available to answer your questions.
Thank you, Director Gates. Commissioner Barnett has signaled that he has a question.
I guess maybe this will be resolved in the discussions that that happened between the Arts Commission and staff, but I'm concerned about what I will put under the category of valuation. The value of a piece of art is subjective. I mean, a price can be set by the artist or a price can be set by the market. Obviously, you know, if you're talking about a Picasso, you're talking about a price set by the market. If you're talking about an original piece of art, for example, the city really recently was given a gift by Peter Hasson of a sculpture. The value of that sculpture was established by Peter Hasson. I don't think he is an artist of such renown that there is a market established price for him, but I may be wrong. He may have achieved that level of recognition. So am I correct in assuming that this question of valuation, what is the right price or value associated with a piece of art, is going to be part of the discussion that takes place with the commission and staff?
So yes, the policy is going to identify how that value would be confirmed, I would say.
Okay.
And so it may be receipts of sale, things like that, that would confirm that that amount that they are required to expend was expended on that art.
Okay. My second question has to do with the reality of, when it comes to the public art portion, actually referring to it as an in lieu fee. Is there an example in the city of a project in which the developer actually installed public art at their expense?
It has not been a requirement, so I'm not sure. Everybody's looking at me, but off the top of my head, no. One of the jurisdictions that I worked in, this was a requirement in our jurisdiction. The commercial properties did install art. In some cases, it may have been a fountain with a piece of art, like a bronze statue. Most of the time, it ended up being an actual payment of fee, and then the city itself procured art, whether that was a temporary art show or a new mural, those types of things.
But if I understand the language that's being proposed, we are going to require either the installation of art or the payment of the in lieu fee. And I'm just wondering, I mean, I guess that's okay. Once again, it raises this issue of valuation. If the developer decides to install the art themselves, because they could say, oh, you know, this is worth $25,000. And how do we validate these valuations? To me, is a question that has to be resolved, or I can see a lot of games being played. So those are my two concerns.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner DAMBACH.
Of course, I have questions. My questions are related to the tree ordinance. So first of all, just for clarification, the $700 new fee, is that per tree? Or is that one fee for X number of trees?
Per tree.
Okay. The second question is, does this apply to backyards or just front yards public facing?
Currently, when we are discussing tree replacement permits, it's going to be in your front yard setback, and or the public right of way require a tree replacement or a tree permit, tree removal permit. Or if you're doing a new development project, we require you to provide an arborist report, and with that arborist report, identify all the trees that are going to be removed. And this is the section that we have currently $100 payment. So if they aren't able to produce So some of our trees are gonna be larger, right? And so the replacement factor is gonna be more than a 1-to-1. And so in those cases, with the development itself, it's potentially not possible to provide all the trees on site. So right now, we're just getting $100 a tree. And I don't know if you've tried to buy a tree for $100 and water it and plant it, and so that's why the fee went up.
Okay. I just would suggest that it's made clear in the actual language.
It is in the entirety of the
Okay.
ordinance. There's definitions
Okay.
of what basically a protected tree would
No,
be.
not the protected tree, that it's $700 per tree. Because it says $100 per 1-to-1 and things like that.
Yeah, so the $100
Yeah.
is gone.
You're right.
The $700
Just will
per
insert
tree
it.
is in the actual fee
Okay.
list.
And then my third question is, where do the tree in lieu fees go? Do they go to a
They go
special
to a
tree fund? Okay, that was not apparent in the language, so is that in the language of the revised ordinance?
I'll double check and we can add that, kind of like what we have in the arts one.
Yeah, I mean, that was missing in the packet that we had, so,
Okay.
yep.
Then there are significant trees. Other thing. Commissioner O'Neill.
So I need some guidance on the tree in Luffy, and I'm thinking specifically of the hillside. And do you remember when those hillside houses were proposed, the Bill Jasper houses up on Shotgun Hill, and they were looking at taking all these trees out? I'm wondering, now first of all, those trees that they were talking about taking out were significantly large trees. Who gets to decide about the in lieu? Does the planning commission still get to decide whether or not that's even an option? Or is that something that a developer can say, I'm just gonna pay the in lieu fees?
So it is a developer choice about payment versus on-site.
Okay,
Because planning commission doesn't really have purview over the landscaping. And so it kind of comes into play in that way. The tree removal itself is just one of the things that you look at as part of it, but it's not actually a permit, when I was looking at it specifically. In this case, it is for if you're removing your front one. I'm trying to think. On that, we want trees, and we are trying to promote planting the right tree, right, on these projects. We've talked about, and we've added some requirements around shade being added to parking lots, so we're adding trees in that way. But we do want to make sure that there is an option that allows us to plant where more appropriate in some cases there may be, and this feeds a fund to do that.
my biggest concern is really the hillside houses. And the reason I'm thinking about those is because they're very visible from everywhere in Sonoma. And the developer's going to want to enhance their view by having all the trees eliminated. I mean, originally their proposal was like ripping out every tree that they could get off the hillside. What kind of protection do we have to make sure that our hillside is not blighted by the fact that they can just remove all these trees and pay a really nominal in lieu fee?
So in the review of a project, you are looking at the project.
And we don't get to look at that one
You
because
don't get to look at
remember,
that one, but
it's
but
went
when
to
you
city
look at
council, yeah.
development projects.
Yeah.
So in general, because we're not making special considerations for different places, in general, you are looking at the project as a whole, what's being proposed. We are requiring the landscape for these new development projects. You are looking at every aspect of it. You do have the ability to provide conditions on these projects, conditions of approval and what they need to do. In the conditions of approval for that project specifically, I quoted the entire section. You're correct, right now it's $100 per tree at that replacement ratio. It's not a 1-to-1 because some of the trees are bigger, right? So a final arborist report will need to be provided to determine what those sizes are. The other aspect of some of the areas, half of our town is now in a very high fire zone. So we are going to end up seeing this kind of competing aspect of wanting trees and fire hazard and requirements from the fire department that are going to be basically it's canopy reach and placement of trees cannot be within a certain distance from a home because of fire. So that's a new component that was added to things that we have to think about now as of last year with these trees. And so that's the other reason why we wanted to make sure at least that we were getting funds to make more trees and put them in our parks or other places that we know that we can increase canopy in those areas without fear of fire requirements.
Sure. Thank you. I actually had one follow-up listening to this. So is it possible to provide, especially in situations where it's going to be ministerial, so is it possible to provide some guidance for staff on examples of conditions that would allow an in-lieu fee, for example? Because I can imagine, I hear what you're saying and it sounds reasonable, but I can imagine some people coming in and just, again, akin to just not wanting to plant any trees around a property, versus someone coming in and saying, as you did in the beginning, you know, it's too close to my foundation, there's not enough place to walk. So I'm just curious if there is an opportunity to provide guidance to make those decisions, even if it comes in front of the Planning Commission. I mean, I know there'll be a conversation about it.
So a couple years ago when we had all of our lovely tree discussions and then we did the canopy study and tree, now that that's done, really hoping that parks would take up the flag and just get started on their urban forestry, but that kind of got diverted to the parks master plan right now, all that energy. With the urban forestry management plan and creating those priorities and goals for how we wanted to do that so that we could really focus on updating this ordinance. I mean, there could be a policy, but it needs to be objective, right? So everything that we do from here on out needs to have objective standards by which those are done. I am not an arborist by any means, and I don't understand roots for each tree, but I do know there's a difference. But you know, that is a possibility, and I have seen it in an urban forestry management plan, like what is that root boundary that you need, you know, distance from homes and things like that. What's that canopy size that's gonna be at the end of, you know, in its maturity? Because as we know, when we see these trees planted, like, is that gonna be anything? And how long is that gonna take to be something? And I've seen standards around that aspect of it. I don't know if that belongs in the ordinance itself, but it could be in a policy.
So if it's not in the ordinance, like even in the, as a follow-up question, sorry, even in the art, can there be a reference to the tree policy or to the art policy in the code for direction, which doesn't?
So the art policy reference is in there because they already have one. They're going to be modifying and updating with this information. The tree policy doesn't exist. This is the first time we're talking about it. It's something that we could bring back. The goal of this ordinance was really just to clean up those two aspects of it. I understand where that concern comes in as far as the determination of when something would apply. But I mean, that's something that we could create into a policy, or if we can find a good example of one, even better.
I mean, I would just advocate for us at some point coming back, whether it's the urban tree plan or a policy when that does exist, or to advocate for that, that we could then update them.
Commissioner Willers.
How was the $700 in related to the trees? How was the $700 in lieu fee established?
So they took into consideration the time of a maintenance and person here at the city to plant it, the cost of the tree, the 15-gallon box tree, and I can't remember, there was one other factor in there to determine that fee.
And in order to charge this fee, you have to have that study done?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's fine for new development in terms of there's no trees growing, there's nothing established, there's no value to the community of a tree. I think it's not right in the category of replacement of a tree of mature stature. The idea that a 36, and the way that we establish that is 48 inches off the ground, breast height off the ground, how wide is the diameter of the tree? A 36-inch diameter mature tree value by this standard would be $4,300. And that tree obviously has way more value than $4,300. And 6 5-gallon or 15-gallon trees, in my opinion, aren't equal in that value. So I think it's a different standard in terms of when a tree is removed. Obviously, there's all kinds of reasons to remove: hazard, illness, infrastructure. There's all those reasons to do it, but my fear is that in lieu fees become an easy way out, and they're adopted by those who want adopted, in other words, utilized by those who don't want to do what, in my opinion, is the right thing. In the development, trees have value to the people who live there over time. It's easy to get rid of it and fill it up with concrete and live and maximize the number of units that you can get on a property by eliminating the need for area for trees to grow. And so to me, I'm in support of the changes to the ordinance, but I think they need some more careful thought to them as well. The public art side, to me, the permit value, $250,000, I'm sorry, but $250,000 is a kitchen, a bathroom, and your fire sprinklers. And so if we exclude the fire sprinklers, you got a kitchen, a bathroom, and a little bit of paint, basically. And you spent $250,000. And so $2,500, and I'm talking about multifamily housing, that's not custom homes. You're quickly going to raise, let's use an example, a 25-unit multifamily house, multifamily project is going to come in with a cost of, I don't know how the permit valuation is achieved, but with a construction cost of probably in the neighborhood of about $20 million, $18 to $20 million for those 25 units. And so that's let's just try to keep it simple, $250,000 for an art project. That's going to be spread over the cost of each of those units in terms of their sale or rent. And so it's counterproductive to me to increase the cost of housing if we're trying to produce housing also. So affordable housing, 100% definitely needs to be excluded. Affordable housing that's being paid for as inclusionary housing definitely needs to be excluded from the cost. And then all of those other little items that you mentioned that are in the exemptions, I completely support, because it's just so simple to get to that $250 threshold or $250,000 threshold. You know, with the idea that the incentive is that we want housing to be achievable here that's affordable just because we haven't added fees to it that, in my opinion, less expensive, you know, and I'm going to take a lot of flack for this comment. In my opinion, the ability to build a housing unit that is less costly in our community has significant value, maybe even more than a public art installation, because of what it means to our community over time. And, you know, I support the idea of public art. I value public art, but at the same time, fees, especially in the housing and residential, have direct impact on the cost of every single unit that comes into our community. And even the market rate units, they end up bearing the cost of the affordable units and inclusionary. So there's no way out of the game. You know, we mandate affordability. It raises the price of the market rate units to the point where that cost just gets passed along, and then the median price of a house in our community goes up, and the cycle just continues. And so, you know, we just have to be careful. I guess that's my bottom line. We have to be careful about how we apply fees, how we reach, you know, how did 250,000, it's like our fire sprinkler ordinance. You know, our fire sprinkler ordinance, I get the idea behind it, is we try to create safe buildings, but you trigger having to put fire sprinklers in your house if you spend $150,000. Remodel your kitchen and your bathroom and you're sprinklering your house. Well, you know, there's a public benefit for it because the house is protected because we've defunded fire services through not taxing because of Prop 13, so the fees come into play because of that. Anyway, I just think we have to be careful, and the valuations, again, in the tree world, the value of a mature tree is not the value of multiple 15-gallon trees. And permit valuation, I don't know if that's different than construction valuation. Is it significantly, or are we changing that too?
So we, with the adopted new fee schedule, permit valuation is associated with square footage and use type versus the actual cost associated. So if you spend more, you pay more kind of mentality. So
So
we're getting
the
rid of
book
that
value,
aspect.
like the code requires you to maintain, but it's the book value. So
so it's based on
$175 per square foot.
Yeah,
just
it's based on
hypothetically.
the number of reviews and inspections on a project now.
Okay.
I want to make sure that I don't want to stop the momentum of the great conversation, but let's, if we could finish our questions so that I can open public comment and then bring it back for discussion. Yes, ma'am.
The question I have, based on this discussion, is if a developer decided to bring in SB 330, could they have these in lieu fees waived?
If they do an SB 330 project right now before the ordinance is adopted, then yes.
But once the ordinance is adopted, this is a particular kind of fee that
This
they
is
can't
an
waive.
ordinance that would be in effect at the time that they would submit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any questions before I open public comment so we can bring it back for discussion? Any other questions? Okay, I'll open public comment at this point. Mr. Mackey, if you'd like to come forward and address the commission on this item.
I'm gratified I stayed for this portion, and I just wanted to add that regarding specifically the art in lieu fee, I do think it makes a lot of sense to exempt 100% affordable housing projects, which isn't to say that residents in those properties don't deserve the benefits of public art. I just think that the cost is then borne by essentially the subsidy that's paying for that housing, so it doesn't quite make sense. I will point out, and I think I sympathize with some of the things that Commissioner Willer said, that you know, the cost is borne into these other projects. In San Francisco, for instance, the threshold for these types of programs is something like 25,000 square foot projects and up. And so 250,000 is a quite low threshold. I know it's similar in places like Napa, but one thing the commission might consider is raising that threshold to something like, let's say, 2 million in new construction. So we would target, you know, either luxury developments or commercial developments, which includes multifamily homes. So I think that might be something you would consider. The other exemptions make sense, and I will add the caveat that removing the inclusionary housing units from a multifamily property does essentially remove 20 to 25% of the fee collected across most of these larger multifamily apartments. And so I think I would be in favor of maintaining the exclusion for 100% affordable housing units, but not having an exclusion for just the percent of affordable housing units in a larger project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, seeing no other members of the public wishing to address the commission, I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for commissioner comments. Commissioner Barnett.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this has been very interesting, and as usual, Commissioner Willers has brought up some provocative and thought-provoking ideas. I'll just, as an aside, mention that the installation of fire sprinklers is not to save a house, it's to save lives. That's all. The sprinkler systems do not douse fires.
I know what they do.
Yeah, so I think the issue on trees pertaining to what's the practical reality of a one-to-one replacement of a significant tree of a large diameter needs more scrutiny. $700 is a pittance compared to the value of a tree with an 18 or 24-inch diameter. And I think the bigger issue is it's not possible to even bring in a tree of comparable diameter because they don't grow trees in boxes that big. I mean, the only tree category that comes in that size remotely are palms. Various types of palms, of Phoenix canariensis can come in a very large box and be of that diameter. But oak trees or trees that are 100 years old or 200 years old that have grown to that size, they're not replaceable. And so I think it's an impractical, at this point, value, and we have to put more thought into what the appropriate value is of a significant tree. And we're going to have to define significant tree in order to appropriately compensate a neighborhood or the community as a whole for the removal of a significant tree for no good reason other than I don't want it here anymore. It makes me worry. I mean, there's a lot of people who are anxious about living with big trees. And I understand that anxiety, and the insurance companies aren't making it any easier. They're really forcing the removal of trees, so big trees. And proximity to structures and distance from structures and all of that have become big issues. But I do think the price of $700 is completely impractical when it comes to a really significant tree. As to the public art issues, I've already raised the couple of concerns I had. I think that the point that Commissioner Willers makes about the impact on housing in general of additional fees have to be looked at in light of all the other fees that now apply to home construction. And I think taking this single fee and treating it in isolation probably does a disservice to consideration of the issue. I think it would be worthwhile, and I can't recall this information coming specifically before this commission, but I would be curious to know what the fee portion of the cost of a new home of, call it 2,000 square feet, actually turns out to be as a percentage of the cost. I have no idea. I mean, when I talk about the fees, I'm not just talking about the fees that the city charges as part of its development fee structure, but also, you know, the property tax increments that get triggered, the school component of the property tax, sanitation district, hospital, all these things that get treated in isolation end up just aggregating into a bigger number for whoever it is who wants to build a home. And I would be curious as to see what the actual percentage of the total fee related type of expenses are for building a home. Maybe it's a higher or a lower percentage than I imagine. I just don't know what it is. So that would be helpful to me just in general, and I think helpful to the community to understand this housing dynamic. I have been trying to explain to people recently, because there's a number of housing projects that are being talked about in town. We heard some neighbors come today to talk about one briefly. And there's a lot of assumptions that are made about what the effect of housing is. And some of them, from my point of view, may be germane, and others of them are not. And the state, as I've said many times before, has removed so much discretionary power from us as a jurisdiction in terms of what we can and can't approve, depending on the nature of the application and what it's applied under, that a lot of the decision making we used to have, we don't have at all anymore. I think that's unfortunate, but I think to whatever extent we can clarify the reality of, for example, what is the effect of X number of houses on traffic? There's a lot of people here tonight, oh, what about we build more houses, just think of all the new traffic. Well, I don't know if that's just anecdotal inference on people's part. I don't know if building 50 houses makes a material contribution to street traffic. It makes some contribution, but it may not be material. And I think we need a broader discussion about some of the issues in terms of housing that have a material impact. And the fees that we're talking about tonight may or may not have a material impact. But I would like to see a fuller discussion of that, to just get a sense of getting my arms around the topic, because I get asked a lot of questions and I don't have a lot of answers.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner DAMBACH.
Yeah, thank you. A few comments. First, the tree ordinance. I love trees, and I would like to see as many trees as possible, just for a lot of the environmental and health benefits. But I understand the quandary of how do you put value on an older tree, and I also understand we have to be objective in how we designate the value. So in thinking out of the box, I know we're not going to do it for this ordinance, but there can be value ascribed to size in terms of shade cover, in terms of carbon, carbon dioxide or oxygen, production. I think the thing that's unfortunately subjective is just the value of an old creature and removing that. So I just want to echo that I would ask that in addition to just trunk diameter, there may be other ways that we can value a significant tree. And maybe there's an opportunity. I would advocate for a tree policy, or even if it's in the urban tree plan, forestry plan, that we take that into consideration, can reference back to it. So there, and underground, there are fungal networks that are actually very important. So there's a lot of science around value that we can attribute objectively to the value of significant trees. So that's the comment on trees. With regard to the fees, as you know, of course, this is always the tension that we have as a small community. The only way we can really raise income is through taxation or fees, unless we can figure out how to create, you know, an economy that the government can take part in, like venues and things like that. So I do think we have to find a balance, and to consider how we might be competitive with the fees with other municipalities and on par with those, as well as being able to fund things that we need for the city. And yes, it's expensive to build commercial units, but one of the things that towns suffer from is they can't generate enough money to sustain their infrastructure. So we have to do it somehow. And so I think this fee structure is reasonable. I support no fees on 100% affordable housing to incentivize affordable housing. I like the comment that if we want to try to mitigate some fees, we maybe put a baseline on, you know, the permit size. I think that's a reasonable idea. So again, just trying to find that balance between certainly incentivizing affordable housing, but also balancing revenue versus home building.
Commissioner O'Neill?
I am not in favor of in lieu fees for art. I think that art is so subjective that it's not a good idea for us to force art. We might end up with art we don't like. So I don't like the idea of us forcing art on a project, that it has to be 1%. I see that, you know, that's the recommendation in there, but I'm just not in favor of that in any level. Definitely not on the affordable housing. I don't think we should do it on any commercial project. Let them make their own decisions as a developer of a commercial building, what's going to attract their tenants or work for them. So I don't like that at all. I think it's unnecessary for us to force art to be included. On the trees, I have a very different perspective. And for me, it's a lot about the replacement of trees. Probably about 8 or 10 years ago, I wheeled a 15-gallon tree into this room. Do you remember that, Commissioner Wellers? And that was with regards to the hillside projects. The fact that you can fill a 15-gallon tree is quite small. I was able to like bring it in here. I bought it down the street. I planted it in my house and now grows apricots, and it's not very big. So the fact that we can replace 6-inch diameter with a 15-gallon tree, and it takes years and years for those to grow to be even block any kind of vision. So I think we need to be even more restrictive actually on the tree replacement. I think the $700 is so much better than the $100. That's a 7 times improvement, so that's really good. But I'd like us to keep looking at that and seeing what we can do to make it less about a convenience for somebody to not want trees, so that we can make sure that we have trees on the property. So I think that this isn't going to stop what we're doing today, but it's something I think we need to continue, particularly in visible properties. Hillside is a big area, but any other visible properties, I think we want to really encourage that the trees get replaced with something that's going to provide the same eventual level of tree coverage. And so there's my dichotomy. I'm not in favor of forcing art, but I'm definitely in favor of keeping trees and keeping the expense as high as possible.
Okay, thank you. I've got a lot of thoughts. I think my 30,000-foot observation is that we have, in our effort to do a good job and to have a great sense of place in our city, we have all these policies that end up competing with one another. And this is not the least of which that is evident. I'll start with trees. I'm a tree guy. I very much join Commissioners DAMBACH and O'Neill in their comments. I'm comfortable with approving this new ordinance as it reads. I think it's a starting point, but I think there's a larger conversation to be had. I think I'm going to focus most of my comments on the in lieu art component. I think I'll join Commissioner O'Neill in saying that I don't know that, while I understand that there's a general value in art and in public art, I don't know if there's a value in compelling the placement of what I would call token art. And I think, in fact, it stifles or it gets in the way of a larger policy direction that we've established, that we have in this community, and that's creating housing. That's creating housing that's affordable. If there is an appetite for compelling art through this ordinance, I would most definitely be in favor of a 100% exemption for affordable development. I would be in favor of exempting affordable units from a valuation perspective, in addition to all the other existing exemptions that have been proposed here. I think the most compelling argument is that every dollar not spent on public art can instead support the production of the housing that we need. You know, as we know, affordable housing projects operate within narrow financial margins anyway, and requiring public art, a public art contribution on an affordable unit effectively increases development costs and reduce the number of affordable units actually built, can increase the subsidy required from public sources. It can make projects less financially feasible. And I think an exemption recognizes that affordable housing in itself is a significant public benefit that maybe outweighs art. My other thoughts. As far as exempting individual affordable units from valuation, I think it avoids penalizing mixed income development. So a mixed income development that voluntarily exceeds the city's affordability requirements could otherwise pay public art fees on both, market rate and affordable units. And so I think exempting affordable units rewards developers who include additional affordability rather than treating those units the same as market rate housing. And in my mind, that creates a more proportional system for recognizing that only the market rate portion generates that fee. I think those are my thoughts. Any other comments?
I have a closing, hopefully cleanup here. So, for me, as with Commissioner O'Neill and DAMBACH, I do think there's an appraisal system for mature trees. It exists in the world. Appraisals for mature trees are done all the time in terms of value to property, in terms of you tore it down off my property, you owe me in a lawsuit. So appraisals of mature trees are done. It's an objective standard. It's an objective just as it is in the real estate industry. And I do think that those tree values of mature trees need to be taken into consideration in our ordinance. I agree with the $700 raising of the development fee for new projects. If I would rather have the developers put the trees in. I think that the public art in lieu fee should be taken out of any housing development, period. I think there's a different argument to be made for commercial development. Primarily in our community, commercial development is tourist-based. tourism benefits from some draw from public art. But I do think that our overriding goals in the general plan currently are the production of more capital A, small a housing units. And anything we can do to keep those costs down is beneficial. Then I have another, so, you know, as an example, a 5-unit housing development is a shoestring development in Sonoma. It's operating on a very, very small margin of return on income, or on return on investment. And 1% is a big deal. It's the difference between 11% and 12 and 10% on a small project. It's a big deal. So I think, you know, if and this is a comment to take to the city council, I think that if they want to get public art fees out of multifamily housing, it needs to have a threshold size. I think we want to incentivize small unit development to, just as the Sonoma Collaborative is putting forward, as a way of solving our housing issues at a scale relative to our community. So we should be incentivizing smaller projects than larger ones. And maybe that's one way to incentivize it. But I think there needs to be a threshold. At 20 units, that's, you know, that's a number I just pulled out of the air. But it shouldn't be 5 units or more. It's just that's, you know, it's counterproductive to what we're trying to do. And then I do have a question. Commissioner Wirick, I believe, asked the SB 330 question. How about housing density bonus projects, where they get to take any exception that they want to our development code?
So, in a density bonus project, you're correct. Anything that doesn't meet their ability to provide that housing or that impacts the cost, they have the ability to remove that standard or that requirement. So let's say we said, you have to provide 100 trees on site, period. Yes, they could say, no, we're not gonna do that. This fee structure is different. That's why when we do, they don't get out of a fee. They get out of a standard or a development component, right?
That's my question.
Yeah, so the fee itself, now, does anybody, yes, can go and request exceptions from city council. City council always will have the ability to say, no, you don't have to pay that fee. Yes, you can reduce that fee. You don't have to pay building permit. Those are all options to any project that comes forward. So even if we said, you know, you are required to do that art project and you owe us $25,000 for that art, yes, they can go to city council and say, can I not pay that? And that's a city council decision. So city council at this point has said, we want to do public art and we want to charge 1% at the $250,000. And they've also said the fee for the tree is $700 right now. Those are moving forward. What I'm trying to do is say, hey, I recognize that that can have an impact. Maybe these are some exceptions for their consideration. If that's no housing, that's the way Napa's was written. It doesn't have anything about housing. They actually said in the mixed use, only the commercial square footage would apply. So that is a possibility, is that is presented to them. If that is what Planning Commission's recommendation is, what I would present is both. I would say Planning Commission's recommendation is this, is the, you know, housing is not included, if that's what the vote is. And then if you did want to include housing, this is what that would look like. So, and making sure that we put in the affordable units, the cost of the square footage of those affordable units aren't being applied in that.
Commissioner Barnett.
Are we under any time constraints?
The fees go into effect on August 2nd.
Oh. So the answer to that question is yes.
It's a yes. So the fees are going to go into place. Right now, obviously, the art in lieu does not, the ordinance itself does not state that we are charging fees for art for a development project. So that's the intent of that ordinance. The $700 is going to apply for only the development project. So if we want any opportunity to charge a fee, that's what was the goal of the ordinance, the broadening of the ordinance.
Oh, okay,
We can
so-
separate the two as well in the resolution. We can have one resolution for just the tree ordinance, make that separate, and then have a separate
Okay, so if we have to come to some closure on this question tonight, I was hoping we could put this off for further consideration, but that's obviously not an option. What I've heard in general is that there are concerns about valuation on the trees and significant trees and so forth, but I haven't heard anyone say that the change from 100 to 700 is a bad thing. So I would expect we would be able to approve that, since that's in the fee schedule that's been proposed to go into effect on August 2nd. So, okay, that's some clarity on that. What about the opportunity for specifically speaking about trees, what about the opportunity for modification or alteration of the structure of that ordinance and the fees associated with it? That can happen at any time as well in the future, right?
That's correct, and as part of that recommendation, could be the development of a policy, as we were discussing earlier, and a consideration of that 1-to-1 ratio with the 6-inch diameter or other types of regulation around that. So remember, between you and the Pros Commission, your two commissions would have the say on the recommendation for those, and then City Council would have that final say. So we would need to go between the two of you for
Right,
for
but an
both of
action
those.
tonight could be to essentially approve the changes in the tree in lieu fee, but also communicate to the council that further research and discussion about modification or alterations of these things to deal with a very specific sort of situation is also one of our recommendations, and we could take that up as a commission. Okay? And then,
Do we want to take that as a separate issue first and make sure that there's consensus?
yes,
on
I
the
think we ought
commission?
to do this as two motions.
I think so too.
It'll make it simpler. So I would move, if it's the time,
Okay, go ahead.
I would move that we approve we approve an ordinance specifically relating to in lieu fees for trees, approving the increase in the in lieu fee to $700 and adopting the language that's been suggested by staff, and with the provision that the commission will look at further refinements and be making recommendations in the future about further modifications of this ordinance.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second for that motion, or is there an amendment?
I will second it with one question, because that's, that motion does not have a lot of details. So will the staff record the details of the suggestions that we've had around mature significant trees, a tree policy?
Yes, so I'll bring it forward. There'll be a component of this where we'll bring it forward as an ordinance itself, but then part of that discussion would be that the Planning Commission did recommend, with its recommendation, that basically how how to implement that replacement factor and to create a new replacement factor in that, and to relook at the ability to have that valuation instead of an in lieu fee applied, but actual valuation. We have the tree inventory that was done did include tree valuations for that for just those trees in the public right of way. So we can look at what that is and how other cities apply that specific thing.
Okay.
I'll second the motion then.
So Commissioner Barnett, do you want to include those amendments into your motion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second on Commissioner Barnett's motion?
I'll second.
Excellent. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Willers,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett,
Aye.
Commissioner Dambach,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
and Chair Wirick.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so moving on to the topic of public art. Are there any comments as to, any further comments regarding how commissioners believe that the public art should
For
be handled?
simplicity, I like Commissioner Willer's suggestion that we remove all housing from the art requirement and just keep it specifically at commercial properties, and there should be some kind of minimal expense on the commercial properties so that they're not getting triggered, I think, at the 250,000 point, but I don't know what that limit should be.
250,000 could be an HVAC system for certain size commercial buildings, am I right? Okay.
And then
Commissioner Nunley.
the only addition was to make sure that we have a policy around valuation of art, which I heard is coming from the policy generation of the group.
That will come from the Arts Commission. Can we back up though to what you were talking about as far as the commercial aspect where you were saying minimum?
As far as the threshold is concerned, the trigger point?
Yes, so changing your HVAC, things like that wouldn't apply. In this case, it's going to be basically a remodel, tenant improvement, interior work of a commercial project, the way that it would be written in the sense of like removing the housing part. Sorry, I'm gonna go to my language. Where's my other one? Let's see. Here we go. So this is the definition of a private development project. So this would mean that we would strike the all-new multifamily with 5 units or more, as well as that remodeling, repair, construction, So all new construction and mixed-use commercial portion only, and we would get rid of the comment about residential. And then all remodeling, repair, or reconstruction of that commercial exceeding 250,000 in cost within the city of Sonoma. So then the exclusions we talked about down here. So my question is, what was the minimum? Like, what do you envision in that? I mean, we could get out the word.
Jennifer, can you scroll down a little bit, please? That's a good list of exclusions. Thank you.
Bill, can
What the commercial book value is for building permits?
Off my brain, no.
Well, close, how about that? Is it $200 a square foot, is it?
Oh. Google. Oh, wait, this isn't Google. I don't know that I have Google. All right. We'll ask.
I'm just trying to get a sense of relativity in terms of true construction cost versus book value.
Commissioner Barnett, while we're searching.
Just for my interest's sake. So if you've got a hotel development proposal for a, call it a 60-room hotel, which is going to cost $50 to $60 million, what that computes to
So-
$500 or $600,000 for
So-
public art?
No, because the permit fee, it's the building permit cost, construction cost, which is different. In other words, the building code says you have to establish a book value per square foot of construction. So you may be building $1 million house, but for custom residential in Sonoma may only charge based on $500 a square foot.
I see. So, but in any event, we're talking about, you know, the potential for big numbers with huge commercial projects, or for what this town would consider a huge commercial
So
project.
think of it as for every 25 million, it's $25,000.
Okay, and the number of $25 million projects that we have in Sonoma is what, once every 20 years?
If that.
If that. So, you know,
It's actually 250,000.
Sorry, 250. It's 25 million.
yeah.
250. Sorry, I was thinking of my.
whatever the number is. The fact is that, you know, this is something that cities like New York and Chicago and Los Angeles undertake, because they are generating huge projects of huge amounts of money with vast public spaces. City of Sonoma does not have vast public spaces. I don't even know, you know, where this Peter Hasson sculpture is going to end up. And it's a big piece. I'm an I appreciate art, and I support artists, and I like the idea of supporting artists. By the same token, there's a part of me that feels like, of all the issues that this little town is facing, economic issues, this is not at the top of the list. I mean, I don't even know how we're going to balance the city's budget over the next 2 years. And frankly, I don't know anybody who does. So I don't want to be seen as not a supporter of the arts. I am a supporter of the arts. But if there's an opportunity for money to be raised for the health and benefit of the city of Sonoma, I'm just not sure that the time and effort we're putting into this particular segment is going to pay off for anybody, because the big dollars don't happen here very often. And unless the complexion of the city of Sonoma changes and we decide to become a major urban center, it's never going to happen. That's where the big money is, and that's where the big money for a program like this will come from. My mother ran a program in New York, in Manhattan, called the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council. And she raised millions of dollars to put public art on the streets in Lower Manhattan. And it still exists today, much to my pleasure, is that she died and the organization went on. But that's New York City. They have a budget of, I don't know, what, $1 trillion? And we're sitting around talking about a 1% budget on big projects that may happen once every 20 or 25 years. I don't know. I think it's sort of out of place and out of time at the moment. I think I'm not trying to squelch the whole idea, and I know there's a lot of people in the arts community who would love to see this happen. But removing housing projects from it is important. I think it's something that is unnecessary at this point and counterproductive to the production of housing. And the other projects that happen few and far between. So we're basically putting a lot of talk and time into something that's not going to be very material.
Thank you. Any other commissioners want to focus their comments around the triggers of the public art requirement as it pertains to commercial development?
I think we ought to at least double the number. I think.
Any other thoughts about
That's
that?
a great starting point. So 500,000, yeah.
Just pulling numbers out of the air, but.
Well, I mean, I think that's reasonable, because let's think about a small business person wanting to come in and renovate an interior area. They could probably burn through $250,000 very quickly. And as you said before, they don't really have a lot of overhead to be able to deal with that. So I'd rather increase it with the idea that folks that come in that can afford to do that probably have a bigger buffer to fall back on. So I'm comfortable elevating it to 500,000 or 750,000 even.
Yeah, I would be in favor of $1 million. I think that for the points very well articulated by Commissioner DAMBACH, if someone is undertaking a project with those type of margins, there's much more of a comfortable fallback and a margin to be able to not make this an impediment. Commissioner Barnett.
Well, and just a real-world example, the abandoned bank building on 5th Street West that's had a for lease sign up on it for 2 years. I've been told that a conversion of that building for other than bank use, with public access, is going to require $500,000 just to retrofit it for the ADA compliance. Bathrooms, doors, ramps, everything else. I mean, and that thing's going to be a white elephant into the foreseeable future just because of that set of conditions. Now we want to add on a public art condition? I mean, we're just throwing impediments in front of a community that doesn't have unlimited resources.
So obviously the final say does not rest with this body. It's a recommendation to the council, but with a so I am comfortable talking about values because it's a recommendation and it's a starting point for a higher body to make that decision, make that policy judgment call. So
$1 million sounds good.
if there's an appetite for $1 million, my recommendation would be that whoever very craftfully words this motion to include the threshold as $1 million for the trigger point for the art requirement to apply in commercial development.
Okay, I'll try. So I'll make a motion to revise this ordinance for public art, or is it, I guess it is an ordinance, this ordinance for public art, to remove all residential construction and limit it to projects exceeding $1 million in cost for new commercial and the commercial portion only of mixed-use projects. I think that's all I really need to change because that gets rid of everything else, right?
I second.
Did you say a dollar amount or did I miss that?
Yeah, I said $1 million.
Yes. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there, can we take a roll call, please, Hannah?
Yes, Commissioner Willers,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnett,
Aye.
Commissioner DAMBACH,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
Chair Wirick.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
If they decide they want to put housing back, then we can just do straw. Per the discussion, what I'm hearing is that they would all affordable units would be removed from that calculation.
As a percentage,
Yeah. Okay?
yes.
Yes.
And that this would be in effect in greater than 20 units, not
Oh, yeah. that's
more, higher than 5. So the incentive is to incentivize infill.
There's been a request for a very brief intermission before we continue on to the next agenda item. Go back on the record in the planning commission meeting, and we will, we have just closed out item 4.3. We will close tonight's public hearing and we will move on to items for discussion, and we don't have any tonight, so we'll move past that onto director comments and announcements.
Thanks.
Feels good to tell your boss things now and then.
Could have just gone, hey.
Yeah.
So I just want to remind everybody the August meeting is on a Tuesday, so it's going to be the 18th, because Transcendence is going to be playing. We have a pretty full agenda on that meeting, so if you're not going to be here, let me know as soon as possible, please. I am going to be out of the country for the week and a half before that meeting, so if you need me, get me by August 5th. Otherwise, I'll talk to you after I get back.
Where are you going?
I am going to Croatia. Yeah. So I'm going to spend 8 days in Dubrovnik and 2 in Kavat. So, no.
She has been to Croatia many times, her history goes back to that. If you want tips and tricks about Croatia, I'll get you George's number. She can give you the whole story.
It's I've been there before,
Uh-huh.
but thank you very much. And I actually know somebody also that lives there every summer.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that is all I have for comments and announcements at this second. I'm trying to remember what is coming forward. Okay, so I do have one more. So August 17th I said 18th here, so 19th is the city council meeting where we'll be having another study session on the mobile home ordinance. So that is coming forward, and that's kind of the biggest item, I think, that you won't see it, but it just having to do with housing in general, and if there's thoughts on that. And yeah, so we'll see what comes forward soon for projects.
What else might we expect for the August meeting?
Ordinances, hopefully, so they signs, ADU ordinance update, and then another one on horticulture and the sales areas in front of residents, and then a few small projects.
Okay. Great. Any commissioner reports or comments? Sheila.
Is there anything on the radar that is actually going to the planning commission about the Ramekins General's Daughter?
There is not a project submittal at this time.
Not a study session, nothing?
So we haven't received any of the information that would be required to go to a study session.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, and with that, we will adjourn.